Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Casey, and today's video is not your typical missing adult case. Khoi Vu was 25 years old when he disappeared back in 2007, but since he had the mental capacity of around a 10 to 11-year-old and was also deaf and mute, this case should really be viewed more like a missing child case. Now, this story got some local media coverage in the first few days of Khoi's disappearance, and his flyer was featured on the America's Most Wanted website for a very short time. But other than that, there's really nothing. Like a lot of the cases I cover, it's kind of been forgotten about. There's no Find Khoi website or anything like that, which really sucks. So hopefully this video can get his story out there because more people need to know about it. Khoi was born in Vietnam in 1981 to parents Hong Thuy and Tuan Vu. They moved to the United States in 1990 when Khoi was 9 years old, and Khoi, his parents, and his two siblings, a brother and a sister, all became U.S. citizens and eventually settled in Vancouver, Washington. Now in 2007, Khoi was 25 years old. He and his parents, along with his sister Kyo and her husband Josh Delka, lived in a home together on 92nd Street in Vancouver. Even though Khoi was 25, he was more childlike. He did have some mental and developmental delays. He was born deaf. He could not speak. Again, his mental skills were that of a 10 to 11-year-old boy, and his right arm and hand were slightly deformed. But despite his disabilities, he was able to do many things on his own. He did know some limited American Sign Language, and he also communicated by reading and writing, which he did very well. And reading and writing were actually his preferred way to communicate rather than signing. Even though he was born in Vietnam, his family spoke English in the home, so Khoi did not understand Vietnamese language at all. He wrote and read everything in English. He was a very happy guy. He loved video games and playing basketball. He was very active, and I believe he participated in some martial arts as well. He would ride his bicycle if he needed to go somewhere, and did so often when the weather was nice and it was daylight outside, often cycling to the nearby Albertsons grocery store close to home. He could buy things at shops on his own. He could count money efficiently. He could order off menus in restaurants by reading and pointing to what he wanted, and he didn't need any help doing these things. Khoi was very outgoing, and he liked people and had no problem walking up to pretty much anyone that looked friendly. Since he was deaf, he paid attention to people's facial expressions and their body language. He would hand them a note to introduce himself that said, "Hello, my name is Khoi." On April the 7th of 2007, Khoi had been watching television with his mom in her bedroom. Sometime between midnight and 1 a.m., Khoi blew his mother a kiss, signed goodnight to her, and headed off to his bedroom. The entire family had a trip planned to Seattle for the morning to visit Khoi's brother and to celebrate their mother's birthday, so they needed to get up early. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary, and as Khoi entered his bedroom, everyone thought he was going to sleep. The next morning, however, when Khoi's brother-in-law Josh went in Khoi's room around 8 a.m. to make sure he was up and ready to leave, Khoi wasn't there, and his bed did not look like it had been slept in the night before. A survey of the house did not reveal Khoi's whereabouts. He obviously wasn't in any of the other rooms, and they didn't find him outside either. His bicycle and helmet were in their usual place in the garage where he had last left them, and his jacket that he always wore because it was his favorite was still hanging in his closet, which was odd because the average low in Vancouver in April is around 42 degrees, which is pretty chilly. You're gonna want a jacket if you're going outside. There were no signs of anything unusual in his room or the home, no signs of a break-in or signs that a struggle had taken place. The clothes Khoi had last been seen were in the home, though, so it was believed he had changed his clothes when he had gone into his room when the family thought he was going to bed. So the family wasn't sure what he was wearing when he left. His parents were obviously worried, so Khoi's sister and brother-in-law called police to report him missing, but everyone really thought that he had maybe just wandered off and would be found near his home pretty quickly. This wasn't the case, though. Searches were conducted all day Saturday until that evening, and when they didn't find him, concern began to grow. That trip to Seattle the family had planned, Khoi was really excited about it and had been looking forward to it. He had bought a birthday gift for his mom and wrapped it all on his own and had shown her the package. He was proud of it and couldn't wait to give it to her. So why would he leave like that, especially in the middle of the night or early morning, if he had left on his own? And why had he not come back? Why had no sign of him been found during the search? Khoi had left on his own before, but would never leave at night when it was dark, and when he did leave during daylight hours, he always returned home within an hour or two. He also wasn't known to leave when the weather was bad, and it was pouring that Saturday. There had been some pretty severe rainstorms. So this whole situation was extremely out of character for Khoi, and he was not completely independent. He couldn't live on his own and would not have been able to care for himself for long. His family said it was a mystery as to why he would have left. The next day, on Sunday evening, a woman saw a news segment about Khoi's disappearance on TV and called police saying she believed she had seen Khoi that day at Ellsworth Elementary School. A man that looked like Khoi had played on the basketball courts with her sons, and this was around 3:30 p.m. that Sunday. She had offered him a bottle of water, and he had chugged the whole bottle like he was really thirsty, but he hadn't spoken a word, and he hadn't tried to communicate with her or her sons that he was in trouble or needed any help. This was believed to be a substantial lead because the elementary school was only about 6 miles from his home. He loved playing basketball and did so often, and if he had been out overnight and hadn't gotten anything to eat or drink, he would likely have been extremely thirsty, hence the reason he drank the bottled water so fast. Or it could have just been because he was hot and dehydrated from playing basketball. Police did come out later and say they didn't believe this man had been Khoi after all. They believed it had been another man that just kind of looked like him, although I'm not sure if they actually identified this man as being someone else or if they just assumed it wasn't Khoi. But how many other deaf and mute Asian men would be playing basketball in that area? I don't know. The fact that they just decided it wasn't Khoi is kind of strange to me. On Monday, when Khoi still had not turned up, tracking dogs were searching the grounds of the Ellsworth Elementary, and they did pick up Khoi's scent at the basketball courts, but the trail stopped, kind of leading away from the courts. The dogs were sent to his home as well and searched until around 10:30 p.m. that night. They did pick up Khoi's scent at the home, but did not hit on a followable trail. This may seem suspicious to some because you would think if he walked away from home, his scent would be there, but there had been really heavy rains that night, and rain will wash away human scent pretty quickly. Nothing was found inside the home that would indicate foul play, forced entry, or any signs that Khoi had planned to run away. He hadn't packed a bag or taken any of his possessions that were dear to him. There had been an incident shortly before Khoi disappeared in which he got spooked and hid out in a dumpster close to his house. There are no details to this event, so I'm not sure exactly what occurred or what caused him to be so scared he felt he had to hide, but law enforcement considered it to be a possibility that maybe it had happened again and Khoi was hiding somewhere. Maybe he wasn't coming out because he was worried he would be in trouble. So neighbors were asked to check their parked cars, sheds, garages, and other outbuildings for Khoi or anything that seemed odd or like he had been there in case he was lost and seeking shelter from the weather, or perhaps hiding. Divers did search 2 ponds close to the home, but they didn't find anything. Surveillance footage of places Khoi frequented were also checked with no luck. The FBI became involved and they did take the computer that was in his parents' home, even though Khoi wasn't known to really use it. I think this is common practice though in an investigation. They just wanted to make absolutely sure he hadn't been lured out by someone he maybe met online. And they probably wanted to make sure the family wasn't involved and check to see if anyone in the home had been searching anything suspicious, like how to kill someone or how to hide a body, but nothing of interest was found on the family's devices. They did interview sex offenders in the area that lived within a 1 to 2 mile radius of the home and followed tips that were called in, but they couldn't confirm any of the sightings and none of the tips led to anything. Police did say that they had some persons of interest in the case, but as far as I know, none of them were ever named, nor did they confirm anyone as being a suspect. Because of Khoi's disabilities, he would have been more vulnerable. He was small, deaf, and could not communicate by speaking, so he could have been an easy target for a predator out to take someone or cause harm. His family has also said that he is super friendly and very trusting of everyone, so it may not have been difficult for someone to lure him away. Family and friends made and handed out flyers in hopes someone had seen him and would come forward with information, and a reward was offered. I believe it was around $5,000. I believe the family did one news interview asking for tips, but I'm not sure if any other interviews or segments were ever done. His story kind of seemed to fizzle out within a week of him going missing. Like I mentioned at the beginning, there isn't even a Facebook page for finding Khoi or a website keeping his story out there to the public asking for help. Something I personally don't really think has anything to do with his disappearance, but I know there are people out there that do, so I'm gonna mention it. Khoi's sister, Kyo, and her husband, Josh, moved away from Vancouver to Chicago in November, about 7 months after Khoi disappeared. Some think this is suspicious, like, why would you move away when your brother is missing? But it was 7 months later. This move could have already been in the works beforehand, and the parents didn't move. They stayed in Vancouver. So I myself don't think this means they did anything or were trying to run away from what was happening, but I also don't know why they moved. Police didn't find any evidence of foul play or abuse in the home. That doesn't mean there wasn't any, but Khoi also hadn't told anyone outside the home that there were any problems. Maybe there were issues and he was scared to tell, but I don't think so. Khoi seemed to have a very happy, loving, and caring home life. I personally don't feel the family was involved, but I also don't understand why they haven't done more advocating for Khoi. Maybe they have, and it just hasn't reached out as far as they've hoped. It's quite possible the media just didn't think it was interesting enough, so they didn't pick it up, which happens, and it's very sad. Somebody made a really, really nice video slideshow for Khoi. I believe it was his sister that created it. I'm not totally sure on that, but I will link that video below if you would like to check it out. Also, just because a family isn't talking about their missing loved one to the public every day doesn't mean they don't care or that they've stopped looking. Everyone copes differently, and some people like to grieve privately. It's been 14 years since Khoi vanished from his home, and he has not been seen since. Investigators, for some reason, believe Khoi was the victim of a homicide and that his body was put in a dumpster and is now in a landfill near Boardman, Oregon. They have not released any info on why they believe this, but that is what they think happened. While researching, I'll admit I had the terrible thought of, oh my gosh, what if he was hiding in the dumpster and the trash got picked up? Those garbage trucks pick up the whole dumpster and dump the contents into the back of the truck, and there isn't always a worker standing there watching what's going in. That would be terrible. But cops think whatever happened to him was intentional. So I do wonder if anyone had been bothering Khoi, if there were any bullies around that picked on him. Maybe someone befriended him and convinced him to leave home in the night and then did something terrible. I hope that's not the case and that he's alive and maybe just confused somewhere with a good person caring for him. But it has been a very long time. No body has been found and no one has come forward to say they have him or know anything about where he could be. When Khoi went missing, he was 5 foot 5 inches and around 105 pounds. So he was kind of small and his arms and legs were very thin. He is of Asian Vietnamese descent. He has black hair and brown eyes, and his right arm and hand are slightly deformed. He tends to keep that right arm straight and held away from his body, and he also tilts his head to one side. He cannot speak or hear and communicates primarily through written notes. He was very familiar with the Albertsons grocery near his home and may confuse other Albertsons chain stores with that one. Anyone with information on Khoi's disappearance should contact the Clark County Sheriff's Office at 877-274-6311 or your local FBI field office. Please share Khoi's flyer and share this video if you think it will help. Don't let Khoi be forgotten. As always, I mean no harm in doing these videos. I am simply trying to spread awareness on the lesser known cases, and if you would like to support me, please give this video a like and hit that subscribe button. It's free, and it lets me know these stories are being seen. I upload a new video at least once a week. I would highly suggest checking out my entire missing playlist as every case I cover needs more exposure. Thank you all so much for watching. I appreciate every single one of you, and I will see you next week.